Kaido is the strongest creature alive, and Wano was pretty much a demonstration on why Oda gave him that title. But let's be honest here. Kaido, yes, he had, in my personal opinion, the greatest fight in One Piece, which we're about to get in the anime. Yes, Zoro versus King in the anime probably was the greatest episode fight I've seen when it comes to animation. That last scene of Zoro just cutting all the magma dragon was amazing. And of course, right before that, we also had another on the same level, Sanji versus Queen. Of course, that was crazy too with the Ifrit Jamba. Amazing animation. But just off the manga, let's be honest here, I was always a fan of Lucci versus Luffy. Lucci versus Luffy at Enies Lobby was my favorite fight in One Piece, and I thought it was the greatest fight in One Piece. Everything that was going on, Luffy's back, and just seeing the Straw Hats talk about how Luffy knows who to fight always, because if anybody else fought Lucci in that situation, they are getting packed out. Luffy barely beat him. And then of course I think of fights like Katakuri versus Luffy, and Katakuri versus Luffy was just an amazing fight, especially the last ends of it when it comes to Luffy and Snake Man and its Katakuri, and then of course how the fight ended, which is amazing too. And of course then people asking about Doflamingo versus Luffy. I don't think Doflamingo versus Luffy was one of the better fights in One Piece. I think Doflamingo is the greatest villain in One Piece. Everything he did during Dressrosa was just a masterclass of how you do a villain. And I'm not going to give Kaido a better villain title over Doflamingo, but when it comes to fights, Kaido versus Luffy, and we're going to see that when it comes to more anime episodes, is the best fight in One Piece. But today's video is not about that. It's about Kaido coming back. For you manga fans, you guys all know what I'm talking about. Kaido is presumably out of the story. His Yonko title has been taken over by Monkey D. Luffy, and now people are forgetting about this character. But I truly believe Kaido's storyline isn't finished. I'm going to explain if you stick to the end of this video, so make sure you guys stick to the end of this video, guys, because we're about to talk about some crazy things. Now, I want to give some shine to Kaido's top heavy crew. Like, of course, we all know Brand New was talking about the red hair pirates, of course, how they're the most balanced Yonko crew, and of course Lucky Roo, Yasop, and of course legendary Ben Beckman, who presumably we think took Eustace Kid's arm the first time the red hair pirates went up against the Kid pirates. Yeah, they are probably the strongest Yonko commanders right now. And of course, right on the same level as them is of course Luffy's Yonko commanders. Zoro, Sanji, Jinbei are also on that level too. But I do want to say this, the way that Zoro, Sanji went to that level was because they went through Kaido's top commanders, who in my opinion, the Calamities, were legit. You cannot deny they were legit. Look at Jack. I know Jack gets a lot of heat, but you guys have to remember, Jack the Drought, his only losses are to an entire island from the Void Century, who was literally Joy Boy's companion, Zunisha. And then of course he lost to Fujitora, but Fujitora had Sengoku and Suru with him. It was a loss guaranteed if he actually did something in that fight. We do not know. It was never shown. Then of course he loses on the rooftop to Sulong Enarashi and Sulong Nekomamushi. It's one of the few times where even Kaido's like, you did enough, because there's so many Sulong Minks that Jack was fighting even before Nekomamushi and Enarashi, and he was taking them all out. So even Kaido was like, Jack, you did enough, recover and come back. And of course he did do that, and he of course lost to Sulong Inarashi in his hybrid form. But I think Jack well deserved a billion berries. I know people like to make fun of him because of how King and Queen treat him, and of course Ashura Doji Shutamaru scarring him with his sword. But Ashura Doji, you saw Kozuki Oden's flashback, he was the strongest Red Scabbard. He was the ogre of Kuri, and Kozuki Oden had to take him out. He fought all day and night, but he took out Ashura Doji and his gang of hoodlums. But to me, the two calamities that really made Kaido look legit when it comes to power scaling a Yonko crew was of course Queen and King. And Queen is the reason for Big Mom joining the Kaido alliance. He jumped from the top ropes like he was, I think, Jeff Hardy or something. And then of course Big Mom gets her memories back, and Queen, of course, she falls asleep, and Queen locks her up in Sea Stone and brings her all the way to prison of Udon. Not prison of Udon, I mean all the way to Onigashima, where Kaido and her have her clash. Then of course Queen fought Monster Point Chopper. He took a hit from Monster Point Chopper. Monster Point Chopper is probably one of the most underrated characters. He's so powerful in that form. I remember pre-time skip the things he was doing. Then of course we have Marco going up against King and Queen, and he tanked a lot of attacks from Marco the Phoenix. This is the mythical Zoan who was pretty much the right hand man for the Whitebeard Pirates, and was going up against Admirals in Marineford. Then of course we have Sanji and his, of course, let's be honest here, Sanji's whole body, he got genetically the Vinsmoke genetics that pretty much saved him, because Queen was saying even Armor Haki specialists pretty much get every bone in their body broken from Queen's just forming his body and wrapping him around him, of course. So I definitely want to say that Queen is legit. He got so many hits that he tanked, and of course Ifri Jamba was the one that took him out, putting Sanji's powerful armor haki with, of course, powerful fire. Ifri Jamba is the blue flames, and honestly, it definitely makes me look at Queen as respect. Also want to add, Queen had all of Germa's movesets. Like, that was one of the greatest flexes I seen in an anime. And then there was King, and King just took it to another level. It was so bad that even Queen and King always argue with each other and always think each other as trash. But even Queen was like, he's a Lunarian race. King is built different. And we saw that especially recently when it comes to King and his fighting of Zoro. But you have to understand, early on, King was already presented as a monster. The fact that he kicked the Big Mom pirates off of the waterfall, including Big Mom herself that lost her memory, that was amazing in my personal opinion. First time seeing his Delphoid ability. That pterodon, it was cool. Then of course we saw when it comes to Kaido was panicking in that moment, but King came clutch as the right hand of Kaido. Then of course you have to understand that even Big Mom was like, listen King, join my crew, you're one of the races that are now part of my crew. We found out he was a special race, the Lunarians. And of course he went up against Marco the Phoenix. Yeah, people always say, oh, King Queen went up against Marco the Phoenix, but Marco was pretty much 1v2ing them. But I will say this, Marco was 1v2ing them. Marco looked really impressive in the 1v2. But I will say this, King and Queen were not damaged one bit by this, guys. And Marco was exhausted after. So honestly, what it makes me think, King, Queen, yes, they were taking a lot of hits, but they're tanks. They're ancient zones, especially King. King was the craziest tank. He's an ancient zone and he's a Lunarian. Like, even recently, the Seraphim, who are based off of King's genetics, Luffy's like, they're tougher than Kaido. They're Kaido's skin. Like, are they Kaido's? Like, that's how impressive King's durability is, guys. It's one up from just being an ancient zone. He also is a Lunarian, guys. Now I do want to say this when it comes to King as a character, the Zoro fight. Zoro got buffed in this arc Wano so badly, yo. He got Enma, which was exuding his Ryo and just incredibly powerful. Then of course he got Conqueror's Haki coding, and King was still putting up a good fight. Of course at the end Zoro overcame King, but still I gotta give respect. King was talking shit, he was playing around, he was doing a lot of things where like, whoa, King was very confident in his power and his ability as a fighter. One of the coolest things King does is like, yeah, I'll fight you as a sword. I still like a duel myself, a good duel myself. Like, King was definitely flexing in the Zoro battle, but he of course took an L at the end. And that's what I want to talk about. Zoro and Sanji, they needed to overcome these calamities, these billion berry Yonko commanders, to of course be worthy as Pirate King commanders, the wings of Luffy, left and right hand. Zoro and Sanji needed this. So it makes me think, why did Oda choose King and Queen? He definitely put some respect on their names and knows that if Zoro and Sanji can defeat King and Queen 1v1, then they are ready to take on some of the most ferocious characters. Because think about this, guys. Rayleigh was considered a legend by Garp. Rayleigh in his old age was fighting an Admiral Kizaru. So imagine prime Rayleigh, guys, honestly. And then think about Kozuki Oden. Kozuki Oden was fighting Kaido, who's around 38 years old, same age as Big Mom and Shanks. Same age as Shanks and Blackbeard right now. Kozuki Oden was fighting that character, and he was part of the Roger Pirates. And then Kozuki Oden in the anime was fighting Sakura Gaban. So the Pirate King crew's top dogs are incredibly powerful. So it makes sense for Zoro and Sanji to get to that next level for Luffy. You know what's funny? You know what's the icing on the cake, guys? I mentioned Jack, I mentioned King, I mentioned Queen, I mentioned all these calamities. Like, honestly, it's pretty cool to see all these calamities and how powerful they were. But you know what's funny? They were still not the strongest character on the Beast Pirates. In my personal opinion, Yamato was the strongest. Kaido's son, of course, the whole sticky situation of Kaido's son, because Yamato, of course, is the only princess. They tell in the story she's the only princess. And of course, recently Oda put her with all the girls, but she said, oh, Kaido looks at her as a son, and then she's talking about, I'm gonna be Oden, I'm gonna be a man because Oden's a man. Honestly, I don't really care. People always come to me and say, why do you say Kaido's son? It's because Kaido himself said, oh, grab my son, go capture my son. It goes back and forth. If you want to call Kaido's daughter, if you want to call Kaido's son, I don't care. I just read this story and I enjoy it, guys, honestly. But Yamato is the strongest beast pirate in my personal opinion. And the reason why I say this is because if you guys think about it, Yamato had Conqueror's Haki coding and also was a mythical Zoan. And if you think about it, Yamato was fighting Kaido for a bit on the rooftop, which was very impressive to me personally. And Kaido said, Yamato, you're supposed to be the Shogun of Wano. That is a prestigious title. The fact that Yamato was going to be Shogun of Wano, I think Kaido even knows like Yamato is legit. Now, people might say King and Queen are stronger than Yamato, but honestly, what Yamato showed during the Wano arc, Yamato is the strongest beast pirate to me other than Kaido. So that's just Kaido's top dogs, guys. That's not even what this video is about. It's about Kaido himself. It took Luffy learning 2 types of advanced arm and haki, this Ryo, 2 types of it that really, like, of course, the one that was invisible and the one that, of course, where like you're not touching the person. And then, of course, the other advancement is the internal damage that was able to take off the sea stone cuffs, and of course the Red Rock was using. So honestly, Luffy had to use 2 levels of advanced arm and haki. He had to learn, and he added this with Gear 4th, and we saw that Gear 4th Gatling he did against Kaido on the rooftop. Then, of course, he learned Conqueror's Haki coding, with, of course, adding that with Snake Man and Bounce Man before, of course, he becomes Joy Boy, awakens his Delver ability. We find out the true Delver ability, the Nika Nika no Mi, the mythical Zoan, Sunga Nika, Gear 5th, like, while coding with Conqueror's Haki, where even Kaido's commenting on it, and doing an island level attack, the Bajirang gun, to take out a Magma Dragon with advanced Ryo, Conqueror's Haki. Like, honestly, there's so many things to talk about how much Luffy had to do to take down Kaido. And don't forget, Kaido was using Magma and he wanted to evaporate Luffy, guys. It's insane. Oh yeah, did I forget to mention that the Red Scabbards in their entirety fought Kaido before? And of course, the Worst Generation also teamed up against Kaido and Big Mom. Zoro with his Ashura Conqueror's Haki coding, of course, scarred Kaido. Yamato with Conqueror's Haki coding was fighting Kaido for a little bit. And of course, her mythical Zoan. Then of course, you have to think of Momonosuke, who became a literal dragon just like Kaido and had a couple of hits, I believe, when it comes to biting Kaido. And then Luffy fought. Like, honestly, guys, there was a lot of assistance in taking down Kaido. And I forgot to say one more thing. Yeah, he was lifting an entire damn island. Many people were upset with Kaido's flashback, but if you look at it fully, guys, it's a pretty good flashback. It shows his early days of him and his island, of course, and then it shows him joining Rocks, and of course the interactions with Whitebeard, and then leaving Rocks and interactions with Big Mom, and then meeting that old lady Kurozumi with the Bonclay Delver ability, and then of course we get into King. And of course, during the Zoro fight, we saw King and of course Kaido in the flashback, and of course freeing King and leaving Punk Hazard. Then we can even talk about how, of course, if you look at even the situation of Oden's flashback and how that is kind of like Kaido flashback, where we see Moria, we see so many different things in there. And of course, Oda's limited because he doesn't want to show the full Rocks flashback. He doesn't want to show the full God Valley incident. That's going to be an entire flashback that's going to be on the same level as Kozuki Oden's flashback. So honestly, there was limits on Oda, and he still gave us a pretty good flashback if you're asking me, guys. Now, if you look closely at Kaido and Big Mom, they fell into a volcano, and these are the most strongest skins in One Piece. Yes, I'm not talking about Fortnite, guys. Their skins are literally the strongest. Kaido and his scales. Big Mom literally needed Mother Caramel's picture to break for her to get damaged, guys. Yeah, they're really, really tough, guys. They're really, really tough, especially in the One Piece world where we see a lot of tough characters. Not even Haki, not even Delafruit, just them as beings are really, really tough. They're monsters. And Kaido, when he got knocked down in the volcano, was actually covered in magma. Luffy destroyed that blazing Bagua. It was a magma form of a dragon. And you're trying to tell me that Kaido is down for the count? You're trying to tell me that Kaido was killed by Luffy? Oda says it best. Luffy doesn't kill these characters. You know what he does? He breaks their dreams, which is worse than being killed. And I believe Kaido's dream is broken, but he's still out there alive. So here is my speculation, theory, whatever you want to call it. Kaido's going to come back after Laugh Tale, guys. It's not going to be right away. It's going to be after Laugh Tale, after Luffy finds the One Piece, after Luffy fights Blackbeard, and right before Imu is involved with Luffy, Joy Boy, and the Void Sentry, and all that crazy stuff. We're going to find out the Void Sentry, but Imu and Luffy, I think, is going to be the final battle. Now, the reason why I'm talking about Kaido coming back is because I think Luffy's going to go back to Wano, open the borders like it's supposed to be opened, and of course use Pluton. But guess where Pluton is? Pluton's underwater. Pluton is where Wano used to be. Pluton was shown to Nico, Robin, and Law. And I think Kaido will be there they're on the Pluton ancient weapon. And when Luffy comes back, Luffy's not going to fight him. Even if Luffy does fight Kaido at this moment, Luffy is going to be so strong that he can probably mid to high diff Kaido. It won't be an extreme diff fight like it was before. But I think Kaido will let him use it because Kaido is done. He's done. He got what he wanted from Luffy. He respects Luffy. Luffy beat him. And honestly, I think Kaido is done fighting. And I think Luffy gave an amazing battle. Kaido was smiling during the battle, guys. So that is my speculation. Now, I also think when this happens, Kaido is gonna be, how do I say this? Remember how he's introduced jumping off a Sky Island? Luffy bringing him out of the old Wano, under the water of Wano, under Wano pretty much. Luffy bringing him under Wano and bringing him back to the surface. I wouldn't be surprised if Luffy brings him back into the content of the final arc. And if Kaido sacrificed himself versus Imu, versus an ancient weapon, if that's how Oda wants to hype up an ancient weapons by having Kaido, the strongest creature alive, get incinerated by an ancient weapon, which will be a great threat to Luffy now. Like, Luffy gets hit by an ancient weapon, he's dead, he's done. That's how Joy Boy got killed. Kaido and Joy Boy dies the same way. In my personal opinion, that would be cool. Even seeing King and the Lunarians, maybe them getting destroyed by ancient weapons in the past in a flashback, I think honestly would be very, very impactful, and I think it should happen, guys. Now, of course, click on the end screen, guys. Watch my Sabo power scaling video, guys. I did on my channel Drip. It's kind of like my main channel where I actually edit nicely. I have a Kazuki Oden versus Zoro video coming up there, so click on the end screen, guys. I bought a thumbnail artist. I paid a thumbnail artist. I paid an editor, guys. This next video on Dripco is gonna be insane. So turn on notification for Dripco, guys. End screen. Click on the end screen, guys. That's it for me.